Hi everyone and welcome to Backseat Sports. I'm Caleb, he's Josh, and today we're talking Ohio State and Bill Moos. Two different things on the opposite end of the spectrum. I guess first we'll go with our reactions of what happened at Memorial Stadium.
Obviously, it was a rough day for Nebraska. Saturday did not go as anyone hoped. We came into the game as 24-point underdogs, which was the biggest Nebraska had been underdog since 1957. It didn't go any better than that. It got worse, and Nebraska had its worst loss since 1945 against Minnesota. So you're going over 60, 70 years of Husker football, and that's the worst it's been. More blood on Mike Riley's resume. It's going to be tough for Riley heading forward to try to prove himself and see if he can redeem this season. It's not looking bright. We got some tough games coming up, even games like Purdue and Northwestern. Not sure how that's going to go. But once again, we're talking about Ohio State. The biggest bright spot for Nebraska was Tanner Lee. He looked significantly better than I think anybody expected him to look. He completed 23 of 38 passes. 303 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is really a decent day for a quarterback, but it didn't translate to production offensively for the most part, as Nebraska was shut out in the first half. But that was the first time that had happened in years for the Huskers, so obviously it wasn't fun to watch. It was hard to watch, and Nebraska's offense sputtered while Nebraska's defense was torn apart by JT Barrett.
Yeah, it was bad on both sides of the ball. Nothing really too happy to look upon. I'd been to both Ohio State games, both of them equally painful to watch, although the one in Ohio State was a nice day, and the one in Memorial Stadium it was a windy day. The wind was whipping, and in Ohio State everybody stayed the whole game.
Yeah,
and in Memorial Stadium, not so much.
Yeah, I feel bad for Ohio State's punter, man. He had to sit in the cold all game doing nothing. It was rough.
He played his Game Boy, I think.
Yeah, I think he was gaming down there with some of the other backups. I don't know what's going on.
If you like Nebraska football, watching you play Ohio State is a tough pill to swallow. They've had the top recruiting class for the past 2 years. They're going to have the top class this next year. They have 14 guys right now in the top 300, and they're not going to slow down anytime soon. And we're going to play them until 2021 and maybe even longer. So we're gonna have these guys every single year. The college people that we talk to, Nebraska means the word Nebraska in tradition means absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing.
It's so sad. It's so sad.
You know, besides people that live through it, but kids our age have no clue about Nebraska football except for us because, we lived in the state at one point in time.
Living in Ohio, going to college here. And I'm a sport management major, so I talk about sports a lot with a lot of friends in my classes and whatnot. And when you say I'm a fan of Nebraska football, they're not thinking championships and conference titles. They're thinking 6-6, 7-5, 8-4 maybe. They're not thinking championships, and it's sad to see. They laugh when I talk about Nebraska football right now, and it really sucks. It really sucks because I know the potential that Nebraska has, and I know the tradition and the passion that all of us have for the team and for the state itself. And it sucks to see Nebraska in the position we're in right now, and that's why so much change feels like it has to be necessary at this point.
Nebraska football is kind of the state. It's the epitome of the state. It's what everybody can gather around and root for, and it's been tough to do these past few years. Nebraska football kind of represents what we are as a state. Tough, hardworking, farmer, down-to-earth people that are going to tough it out and win games because we're bigger, stronger, and work harder than you.
But hopping back into the Ohio State game, when we gave up 633 yards and 41 first downs, which was a school record. We had never given up that many first downs in a game before.
It was 18-1 at one point. Ohio State had 18 first downs to 1.
And it's hard to pinpoint what went wrong for the Huskers. At the end of the day, it looked like Ohio State outclassed us in every aspect. They had better athletes on every position in the field. And it seemed like the only position that we really looked even competitive in was our receiving core against their secondary. It seemed like our athletes in the receiving core were extremely competitive, and they look like they can make it work. Like J.D. Spielman, of course, he had an amazing game, set the school record for receiving yards in the game, but it really didn't seem to matter much. Obviously, it's going to be overlooked long term because of how bad the game was. And it's just sad to see Nebraska's team look so deflated in a game like that.
JT Barrett had 7 touchdowns, so he adds his touchdown record. He led 8 straight touchdown drives before he was taken out. An unstoppable force meant a very movable object in the Huskers defense. We couldn't stop him. The same thing, they literally took the plays right out of the playbook for their rushing game. They ran that zone running. Wisconsin had used the week before, and they just shredded us again with it. J.K. Dobbins, he had 12 carries for 106 yards. That's at a touchdown. It was just hard to watch in every aspect of the game. Husker fans had started to clear out after the first quarter. When we got our second first down, most of the fans let go of their balloons.
So sad.
So the few fans that stuck around to hold their balloons, let them go.
Yeah. Nebraska learned a lot about where this team right now is. I mean, we only have 4 starters that are seniors on this team, and we only have about 8 seniors that even contribute to the team regularly. So we're a young roster, but the thing is, we're not even close to the likes of Ohio State. And we found out against Wisconsin that we're not even there yet either. So we have a long ways to go. There's going to be a video coming out next week. We're going to be talking about Mike Riley and his performance with talent and recruiting and what would need to happen in the future for a rebound and whether or not Riley should be fired. But we're going to keep talking about that.
After the dark, looming, gruesome stuff that is last week, we have some hopefully bright news. We'll find out. After we had fired Sean Eichhorst soon after that Northern Illinois game, we now have found our new athletic director, Bill Moos.
Moos seems like a good hire for Nebraska. My immediate reaction is that he has the experience and the resume that seems like it fits a Nebraska hire and a type of personality that seems like it'll fit the culture and what we're aiming to do in the future. He spent 19 years as an associate and assistant athletic director at Washington State. And then he went to Montana as the AD for about 5 years. And then he went to Oregon for about 12 years. Has now been at Washington State for the last 7 years. He's done a lot. He's actually the dean of the Pac-12 athletic directors. So, I mean, it shows that he's respected in the conference and he can handle that extreme responsibility. And people really do look up to him. That's a positive. That's obviously something that you would want in an athletic director. And I think Nebraska should be excited about the hire for sure.
I think the reason that we hired Moos is because he has made really good coaching hiring decisions that fit the places that he was at. Alabama's athletic director's first job was under Bill Moos, and they've done a pretty good job so far, I'd say, in sports. I think it's pretty clear implying that after Sean got fired, what the direction of Nebraska football is headed, and it's probably not one with Mike Riley. And that's why we've hired Bill Moos, and he's hired the likes of Chip Kelly and Mike Leach. Washington's turned around their program, and he's also turned around the Oregon football program quite a bit, especially if you compare where they were before he was there to where they are after. It's night and day, and I think that is why we hired him.
Yeah, he's well known for his fundraising efforts at Oregon. He turned their athletic department's budget from $18.5 million to $40 million in 12 years, so over doubled their athletic budget in that time. He did a great job connecting with alumni and making those connections and creating that budget that he needed to make sure that he could hire those guys like Chip Kelly to make that program elite. And he did a phenomenal job at that. He then goes to his alma mater at Washington State, and they had been irrelevant for quite a while. He makes the hire of Mike Leach, works with that program, turns them around. So he's been extremely efficient in his football programs that he's worked at. And he has the experience because he played football himself back in the day, so he understands the culture of football, and he understands what needs to be there for a team to be successful, I think. So I think Nebraska should be really optimistic about what he can do for the program and who he's going to hire in the future.
And the other thing is he has cattle ranching experience, so kind of that farmer, he can understand the Nebraska farm culture a little bit. So I think he's not just some guy from the West Coast, but someone who understands, the Midwest lifestyle.
Most definitely. And one thing that he says and that he lives by is honor the past, live the present, and create the future. And I think that if he can stand by that and really work towards that in Nebraska, it's going to work out well. I'm really optimistic about that. One thing that I wanted to examine, though, was the expectations that Nebraska's setting for Moos and what things that, we're looking for him to do at Nebraska. That kind of comes to fruition when you look at his bonuses in his contract. That information just came out this week. Over half of the $500,000 in bonuses that he can earn is for the football program. There's no other program that's actually specifically mentioned in his bonuses. $137,000 of his $500 is for academic purposes for the athletic department and like how the athletes will perform academically. And then another $125K is for the overall sports ranking of Nebraska as a whole. So the other $250K is specifically for football, and that just shows where his expectations lie. It's all about Nebraska football at the end of the day, and that's what needs to be successful for him to maintain his job in the future.
Yeah, he gets $100,000 if he wins the Big Ten championship, and $150,000 bonus if we win the college football playoff. Now, that would be pretty crazy. But again, it shows that Nebraska is very keen on why we hired Bill Moos, and it's pretty evident in his bonuses that it's for the Big Ten championship and the college football playoff, which might be a little while down the future. Who knows if Bill Moos will ever truly get that, but I think if he could get the $100,000 bonus, that'd be pretty exciting.
Definitely.
It gives you this sense of hope, though, I guess, throughout the rest of the season. And I guess we'll talk about the matchups and stuff next week. This week's a bye week, so hopefully those injured players can get rested up and ready to go, and hopefully we can have a better second part of the season than we have had the first so far.
For sure. Well, everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. We really appreciate your guys' comments down below and your support. And we really want to create a community, a Nebraska football community and a sports community here on YouTube. And we can't do that without you guys, so that really means a lot. But as always, guys, I'm Josh, and this is Caleb. This has been Backseat Sports, and we'll see you next week. Just being an okay average team. Even though we may not have the recruits within 200, 300 miles of the other teams like Alabama or like USC do, there's no excuse when we have the facilities.